think in 10 years we can get there, and lots of kilowatt hours, make medical devices come into your home a lot more affordably. And those are two really big problems that I think Matter could enable, and we really could start to tackle.
LaPre, thank you very much for joining us in this live podcast from IFA 2023. How are you doing today?
Great. Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
And for people that don't know you or your background, can you give a little introduction to what it is you focus on and your areas of expertise?
Yeah, I'm the head of technology at the Connectivity Standards Alliance. We're responsible for Matter. I'm sure we'll bring that up later. But I've been in and around the IoT for about 20 years now, and some other technical areas before that.
And let's go straight back to the beginning. What actually is Matter?
So Matter is an interoperability standard for the IoT specifically. The major ecosystem players, Google, Apple, Amazon, came to what was then the Zigbee Alliance to create a new connectivity standard with sort of modern security and protocol support, IP-based in particular. And so at that point in time, we changed the name. Well, a little bit after that, we changed the name from the Zigbee Alliance to the Connectivity Standards Alliance, and then announced Matter as this new standard. And
why is Matter important? If we're just going straight from the base level and then building up a little.
Yeah, so I think at the base level, it is sort of what I just said. It's the major ecosystem players deciding that this initial decision to create these walled gardens was a mistake. And it wasn't really a mistake in that at that time they made the decision, but sort of fast forwarding 10, 15 years as they each played in the IoT, it became more and more apparent that interoperability was more important than they needed to compete on features and user experience, not on the connectivity, which is pretty standard. Just like on the internet, the way a laptop talks to the internet is the same way that a phone should talk to the internet.
Yeah, and we've seen that happen with things like charging cables, right? Like used to be 15 years ago, almost every company had its own proprietary system, and we've seen that slow shift to everything using USB-C because for consumers at home, it's much easier to go around to your friend's house and have the same charger, and the same philosophy is inherent in things like Matter.
Yeah, wireless charger is another good example, right? Like you can use your friend's wireless charger. All that, yeah, it's exactly the same.
So how hard was it getting everyone around the table? What was it sounds like that was people were reasonably on board, but was there a struggle there to begin with?
Yeah, well, I think some of this came to us sort of whole cloth. Certainly my boss, the CEO, Tobin Richardson, had some conversations with certain people going into the announcement. And I think there was some hard stuff there that I don't know all the stories about. But at that point in time, he convinced them all. Then they came, and once I was involved, that part was pretty straightforward. And then you would have thought that all the technical people that were then brought forth would struggle to agree. But even there, they were broadly in agreement. Security was the first word out of everybody's mouth. We all agreed that the security bar had to be set as high as we could set it. And so once we got past that hurdle, lots of other stuff just sort of fell in place. It might have taken a little bit longer than we thought it might, but broadly speaking, everybody sort of agreed. We really wanted to do the best that we could, put forth something that we could be proud of, and that's what happened.
And how long did that process take?
A little under 3 years. So we announced the project at the end of 2019. And then released the spec and made the spec publicly available in October of 2022. So,
and have you seen a widespread adoption of this? Have you seen, or is it still trying to get people to understand, that they can now do this and they don't need to buy the same, smart home products from the same company?
I think it depends on what sector you're looking at. The Alliance itself has probably tripled in size since we've announced this. So lots of companies have signed up. Now that we've released the standard, each of these different companies are going through their own processes. They all have different, bars to reach for quality assurance and testing. And so some of those companies have met that bar and have released product. We have a couple dozens of products in the field, available at stores right now. But I think there's a lot more to come on that, again, as these companies are going through their own QA processes and seeing that these products meet their quality bar, as well as just the user experience.
Have there been more companies getting involved in Matter, or because you started with like a big group, how much has it grown?
Yeah, so it was about tripled in size.
Sorry, from the Alliance.
So we used to be the Zigbee Alliance, and there we had a few dozens of companies that would come together and work on Zigbee standards, and they're still there. We still support Zigbee and still responsible for growing Zigbee. But on the Matter side of things now, we're about 360 compared to a little under 100. So maybe even closer to quadrupling of size. And then as we go into the different device areas, like we're adding new, right now we're smart home, smart plugs, door locks, things you can go today and buy. We're starting to expand that into robot vacuums, appliances, other areas that you don't really think of as smart home. You might think of as connectivity. Yes, your dishwasher says, yes, you're done. You get a signal on your phone, but that's not really interoperability. But now we're trying to get that device to talk to your other energy management systems to say, okay, maybe delay the drying cycle because it costs a little bit more money and it might be a little cheaper in a couple of minutes. So it really is connectivity that we're talking about now.
What are the next steps then? Because, that sounds like a dream world. One of my goals would be to have a smart home set up in such a way that, it sees when I set my alarm for 6, the lights start to slowly come on at 5:45 to wake me up. The coffee machine turns on. Maybe the little robot butler brings it to me on a nice platter.
Yeah. So, we're really the protocol about that. So all of that you can pretty much do today. You can send the command to turn the lights on, but then it's really up to the ecosystems to provide that user experience today to sort of help you easily program the time of day, or maybe you wanted it sunrise or maybe an hour after sunrise. That's a feature some ecosystems don't support. That's all doable under Matter today, but again, that's more of an ecosystem thing. Over time, we might start to add some of that functionality in to Matter, and there's been some push for that from consumers. To make the rules that I support on one ecosystem work on another ecosystem. That's not something we support today. It is something we're working on.
Would that be a technical issue solving, or be more of a political one to try and get companies on board with these standardized way of doing things?
Really, really good question. We're trying to solve the technical problem, but the way the problem is being solved is also somewhat of a political one as well. So it's a really good question.
Yeah. How do you balance that as a company? Because, you obviously are doing a very incredibly technical thing, but by doing so, you kind of get involved in, massive companies that are quite protective over their own IP and how their systems work. Is that something you have to worry about, or is it more you just go, like you said, you get the engineers around the room and you say, number one, security, how do you get this to work? And then you leave it there.
We talk about we call a marketing requirements document, but basically the use cases that we want to talk about, and then we try to get to consensus on that. And often it comes out in that piece there where some big company or lots of small companies or whatever it is says, well, let's not touch this one, and you sort of figure out why they might be saying that. But that sort of sets the bar as to what we do want to work on in version 1, maybe what we might work on in version 2 or version 3. And then that's what is the basic way we solve that particular problem.
And if you had to paint like a picture of what Matter looks like in 10, 15 years, what do you think what would be your goal? What is something that you'd be, radiantly overjoyed to witness?
I'm somewhat already radiantly overjoyed as to how far we've got. But, one thing I should say, and maybe I didn't say it already, we're a member-driven organization, right? It's the members that do things. And as the head of technology, I can sometimes point to a hill and say, that's the hill we should take. But then the process of herding the cats up that hill, we end up on a totally different hill, and that's fine. I think I had thought that, at least on day one, like, oh, we're going to standardize this, that, the other thing, cameras will be included, everything else like that. And nope, we took a smaller hill, but it was a valuable hill. And it's now we see the pathway to cameras and other device types. But anyway, in the 10-year plan, I think, any device that's coming into your home should be Matter. So health and wellness devices, like through COVID, They're like, don't come to the hospital. It's more dangerous here than your house, so stay home. And then we'll send you some equipment, and that's mostly expensive Bluetooth devices, or very not standardized at all, expensive to build devices. So those there should be a standard there, Matter, that should help those companies build those devices more affordably, still competitive. Like I do the magic sensing, whatever the medical piece is, but then the whole technology stack below it should be Matter. Something a lot easier than to build off of something like Bluetooth, which is way at the bottom, and you have to build all this stuff in the middle. But then energy management, I think, electric vehicle chargers, water heaters, all that should be Matter as well, so that I can have simple devices or apps that help me save money. Like maybe my car charger doesn't have to charge to 100%. As soon as I plug it in the middle of the day, maybe it only charges that way at night or when my solar panels are kicking out a lot of extra energy. And that's really, I think, the promise of electric vehicles is that, yes, it's even more affordable than petrol, but if I'm charging it all in the middle of the day whenever I plug it in, then it's even more expensive than it had to be. And so those are cost savings that we could achieve. Same with water heating. If there's no one in my house, then stop heating water, right? Or maybe cleaning my pool as much because, again, no one's home. So occupancy dictates a lot of this. I think all of that is enabled by Matter. And I think in 10 years, we can get there and, save, lots and lots of kilowatt hours, make medical devices come into your home a lot more affordably. And those are two really big problems that I think Matter could enable and we really could start to tackle.
Yeah. So the future with Matter is that it'll be more simple, more secure, more sustainable, and more environmentally friendly.
Yeah, sounds great.
Oh, I can't wait. Well, now I'm just got to wait for that day for my little robot butler to bring my coffee.
Yeah, we'll start working on the robot butler.
Thank you very much. That's what I want to hear. Cool. Okay. Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate it.
Alrighty, thank you.
And thanks for coming to IFA, and we will, hopefully catch you soon.
Yeah, thanks again for having me.